Welcome to Bioinsights. Today, this is the podcast. If you're new to the podcast, we discuss cutting edge health technology, wellness, and human performance. I'm Marcelo. Today, we are truly have an exceptional guest on the forefront of the fitness industry, who has spans about 3 decades. Greg Maurer, who is the vice president of fitness and education at Workout Anytime. It's a franchise system where he directs fitness operators through a franchise network. And his focus is really, that's just really the tip of the iceberg. Really, his focus has been wearing multiple hats. He's worn every single hat in the fitness world, from managing multi-million-dollar facilities to developing proprietary training systems and equipment companies like React and Sprung Fitness. He's launched clubs, he's created educational platforms, he's helped shape really thousands of trainers. I've had the opportunity of working with that community in the educational side. The fitness professionals really approach their craft and their background similar to his background in exercise physiology from Temple University. His experience spans multiple clubs, rehab, corporate wellness, and then even as his time as a platoon sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. So Greg really brings a unique perspective that I'm really excited to talk about. Really truly a results-driven fitness business model. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Greg. I'm really looking forward to this.
So am I. Thanks for inviting me, Marcelo. I always enjoy the opportunity to interact and share some of what I've learned with your listeners.
That's great. Let's dive in. The industry, though, since I've participated since the 1980s, and I've seen multiple economic cycles. I'm sure like you've had as well. That being said, this technology revolution and now post-pandemic landscape really provides, you know, a different perspective. And I think if you have that from your vantage point, overseeing, all these franchise locations, what are some of the trends that are significant that you're seeing in the fitness industry to right now, actually?
So yeah, let's just start with a macroeconomic picture, right? The elephant in the room are tariffs. What's that doing? It's creating a lot of confusion. Prices are almost certainly not going to go down for the goods and services that we need in this industry, right? So there's going to be increased cost. I think you'd be really naive to think any other way, and you certainly need to be planning that way, right? So that is what it is. So you do everything you can to be efficient, but at the end of the day, you've got to outrun costs. So it still comes down to the same thing. It's about revenue, right? So you have to drive revenue. I think some of the things that have changed, obviously recovery, let's call it wellness recovery, is enormous. If you are not doing that, you are absolutely behind. Or put another way, you are missing an opportunity. And I don't care what segment, HVLP, mid-market, all the way through lifetime and Equinox. And I can look at something like red, near infrared. And I've done my research, so I know the science. If you deal with a credible company, you have a credible product, is that a winner? It is a complete winner, as one of many examples, right? So if you're not doing that, you're being eclipsed by other people who are doing that in your market segment. And I would encourage you to take a look at that. How you deploy wellness depends upon which market segment you are. And I can talk about that a little bit more, but just to kind of cover the trends. So that's obviously an enormous trend. AI is an enormous trend. If you do not have a roadmap, both for fitness programming and let's just call it operations, finance, and marketing. If you do not have a roadmap for each areas of your business on what you're looking at doing with AI, you are absolutely getting behind. You will be eclipsed in each of those areas. AI doesn't need to take your job. If you're looking at it that way, you need to zoom up to a higher level. It's like trainers. designing programming. We are in pilot. We just completed a pilot with one that we're deploying throughout the network. It has been a total winner. And it really helps you design programming. It's not that a trainer couldn't do what it does it in 1/10 the time. So, and it is very accurate and it is very consistent. So if I told anyone, hey, I have a tool that could take some of the tasks that you do and could cut your work by 25%, would you be interested? Let me put it another way. Why wouldn't you be interested? Right? So you have to be looking. So those three trends, I think, are really deciding a lot of what's going to happen. And we can dig into each one because there's a ton underneath each of those sections.
I think on that, that explanation of the trends and the operator mindset, I think are the operators approaching this differently? Do we see? I mean, because post-pandemic, if anything has taught and the operator mindset that if you're slow to change, you're going to die on the vine. You need to be able to accept that this is going to be part of operations. I understand your comments of you're not gonna make it. I think what frightens a lot of operators is the expenses being greater than their revenue.
Sure.
And understanding that sometimes you have to look at that as not a negative if you have a roadmap and you have a plan to get you out of that. And I think that's really what you've seen and you've done, right? So you're working with a new franchise partner or you're working with a pre-existing one. What's that biggest misconception that about running a facility today in 2025?
I think there's several, and some of the big ones that we see in our model, and in a franchise model. Just to put something out there, I think that's important for everyone to understand. And this is an elephant in the room. In a franchise model, the franchisor and/or the billing partner, let's call it a minimum of 10%, could be 15% of your revenue. You're never going to see, right?
Yeah.
That is what it is. Planet, Crunch, us, whoever, right? Anybody, right? And you go, oh, so what? Well, that's a big so what. So that's a big so what. When you think about it, this is what you have to understand then, the pressure that brings. In a membership model, you have high leverage. What do I mean by that? Well, to put it simply, if you know your revenue per member and you know your expenses, you pop it into a spreadsheet. Next thing you know, you got your break-even number of members, right? So we're paying you a monthly fee of whatever that is, and that's covering your entire nut, right? That's obviously the first goal. Get past that number, right? Once you're past that number, let's say that magically, and this would be kind of magic unless a competitor went out of business. A competitor goes out of business and you get 500 new members in 1 month. Your cost increase for them doesn't exist. There is no cost increase unless you are at capacity, right? The entire membership model is what built this industry, subscription. So regardless of those fees I talked about, once you get past that number, it's really simple. You can spend that money. I mean, when I'm explaining this to owners, that's how I explain it, right? So if that thing's not pumping, forget all the other stuff. That you are not going to, in our model, in most models, unless you're running a PT shop, and that's another discussion, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to do it. Now, so what that means is that when you look at other services, right? So for example, recovery and PT, group training, right? All those things. Okay. All of a sudden, you really got to look at labor. Let's talk about PT and group. There's lots of labor, right? And here's the deal. When you have a labor heavy offering and I'm pulling, let's call it 12% off the top. So now you're at 88%. Say you're given a sales commission. It's 10%, right? Okay. So now you're at 78%. Now you're paying the service provider, if you will, right? What are you paying him? If you're not paying 30, he's going to be walking, in my experience, right? So let's call it 40. You see where we are now? All of a sudden, you don't have a lot of money to play with. And that is before you cover non-production hours, right? So trainers, I just hired a trainer. He's going to magically fill his schedule up. I don't know where you've been. That ain't going to happen, right? And if you don't so you're going to have to pour a ton of time and energy into trainers as an example. And if you're not, don't get started. Do not even get started, because they're going to fail. You're going to have serial failures, and you're going to churn. So when you have focused labor-heavy offering, you better get your boots on, and you better have a plan. I know how to do that. I know how to teach that, but you have to be up for that challenge, right? So have you modeled out if you can't show me a spreadsheet that accurately models your financials, meaning what are you charging? What are you paying out? All the bonuses. Are you pulling those franchise fees off the top, the ad fees, any other fees? Are you accounting for matching fees? Boy, you better get that right. You had better, and you should not get started if you do not have that financial model sitting in front of you. So we spend a lot of time with owners going, these are the facts, bud. So if you're opening a new club, for example, and this I think is true of almost certainly every HVLP model. If you crush pre-sales, life is good. If you whiff, oh brother, you are in the hurt locker. We both know that clubs are going to go up to a certain point and they're going to plateau, right? Revenue does not go up forever. It just doesn't, right? We have learned, if you look historically, and I know this to be true across the industry, how well you did on pre-sales is going to tell me where you're going to be in year 1, 2, and 3. Because you're never going to have as much momentum, right? So you need to get out of the gate really, 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 really strong, right? And that's what you're going to big marketing spend. You've got to spend it then. And that includes mail. Let the world know, here I come, right? Of course there's digital. Of course there's social media, all that stuff. And Marcelo, you need a really aggressive ground game. You can win. We win against bigger players like Planet and Crunch when we have an aggressive ground game. When we teach our teams, we call it a charter membership program, say, you need to meet and greet literally everyone in that community. You are not in the office, bud. You are out, you're saying, hey, Marcelo, my name's Greg. We're building a club right over there. Hey, if you give me your name, number, and contact information, you're not buying anything. You have no commitment. You're part of our charter membership program. And that gives you the right to discounted pricing, right? And you tell them what the pricing is, and you say, there's no pressure to join. I just want to keep you in the loop on where we are. Will you like us on social media? In our clubs, and I don't think this is unique, when we go into pre-sales with 1,000 names already in the CRM, so to speak, before we even start pre-selling, we crush it. Because then as soon as you can start pre-selling, you're calling a hot list. So you're building that social media presence. The marketing's going out, right? But you know what marketing does? It generates some awareness.
Yeah.
You get someone to drive an inquiry, right? So, those are some key aspects that I see that you have to understand. Recovery as an offering. We're an HVLP brand. You cannot have a labor-heavy recovery offering. We put in premium recovery, premium wellness suites, right? So that is now a standard part of our offering, right? So when I'm on a tour, I show you, hey, here's another door. When you're a premium member, you scan at this door, you walk in, there's an entirely different experience, even more upscale than the club. Think 200 square foot. It's got to be beautiful. A person's got to walk in there and go, wow. It's like walking into the Delta Lounge when you're stuck at Hartsfield in Atlanta. You're like, thank God this place exists, right? So red light, sauna, cold, the whole thing, right? I test modalities constantly but there's a checklist. Is there science behind this modality that establishes that it's effective and provides benefit and does not harm people? It's a yes or no. So I have to do my due diligence. Then you look at the company who's providing it. Is the company reliable? Can I depend on them? If I scale to 200 locations, are these guys going to be able to handle it or not? And then the product itself. and then we go through a whole pilot phase, right? But what I'm looking at for modalities, for example, cryo doesn't make any sense. Went down the list, looked at it real hard, just because we bundle everything under memberships, Marcelo. And I think most HVLP do most of their offering that way, meaning that instead of selling these services a la carte, we take our membership price and we move it higher. And we can move it higher. Why? Because I'm giving you a whole lot more. We need to keep our operations lean and simple. If we have to start selling recovery a la carte, which a higher end brand, Equinox, Lifetime, they can do that. And they should do that. That's not part of our deal, right? So I'm looking at all these things saying, do they ring the bell? I want to know usage. So can I see usage remotely? Can I get a report from the vendor? I don't want to have to go look at a machine. I don't have to look at a counter, any of that crap. I just want to see it. So wellness brands, Hydro Massage, those folks, we had them integrate with ABC a long time ago. I can see all that because at the end of the day, that's how I evaluate a pilot, right? Objective information. How popular is it? Wow, they love it. That's how the owners evaluate it. And then so that's the way we look at recovery now. The next stage to our recovery wellness centers is that I have, for example, a facial red light unit coming in. We already have a lay down and a stand up at a red near infrared. Why would I want a facial? Well, because you've got clubs, particularly legacy clubs, that say have a hydro massage, but they don't have any of the cool new amenities. You can slide one of these red light units. It's on a stand. So now I'm on a hydro massage, but what am I doing at the same time? So I can retrofit that in. I begin stacking amenities. We're looking at PEMF, pulse electromagnetic field. I'm looking at a number of things, molecular hydrogen inhalation. There's a lot happening in that space. I spend a lot of time staying current. So I went to the W3 Fit conference, California, but I said, hey, let me fly into Newport first. I went to see probably the most advanced recovery wellness center I've ever seen. It was just amazing. Now, I saw technologies there that I hadn't seen. Some of them would not work in our model, very expensive, and a big labor component, right? That doesn't make the modality bad. It just means that that's not going to fit our model. If I have to have a lot of interaction with you, and if we spend a ton of money, like on a cryo unit, we almost need, it's like another business. Does that make sense? Like to monetize that, I have to raise the fees. So I have a very, as you can tell, I know exactly, I have a strategy for that. I know why we're doing it. When it comes to things like group training in our model, I talk to owners and I say, look, it's a labor heavy offering. I know it's shiny. And you remember the time, Marcelo, when Orange Theory came out. Everyone, they came to URSA when it was URSA one time, I think. And everybody went back and goes, I'm going to throw in a studio and I have heart rate.
Leaderboard up.
Nobody made it. It failed. Okay. I know we're not a boutique. We are an HVLP brand. And so what I say to owners is there's two reasons to do group. Reason number one, which I prefer, is I want to do it because I want to build value and membership. And I believe by having some type of group, classes, group training, whatever, it will add value to my premium membership. Okay, that's a great reason to do it. However, now there's no direct revenue. You understand? It's just packaged into membership. If you are not watching that labor, you're going to have a problem, right? Now, scenario two, which very few of our clubs have been able to master, is I'm actually calling group training a distinct profit center, right? Can it be profitable? You know it can. We've seen their brands doing it that do a great job at that. What I say to owners is just understand something. If you want to charge some number like an additional $79, $99, pick a number, you better be able to deliver that experience. And do you have a dedicated space? No? Okay. Think about that. Do you have instructors that are that high quality? Are you prepared to recruit, onboard, manage ongoing training. Because if you're not prepared for that, you're going to fail at charging for it, right? Because conceivably in our model, Marcelo, and I think in a lot of HVLP, it goes like this. You have the membership, which drives the bus. If that's not working, you know what you need to focus on? Nothing else. Fix that. Are you selling a bunch of premium memberships? No, we got to fix that. We got to do whatever we need to do to fix that. That's going real well. You're above break even. You're making money. You can breathe now, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the potential to add PT and/or group, right? But be ready for that. Understand that you could conceivably have 3 businesses.
And the thing
Membership,
is
personal
building that
group. Those are literally 3 completely different businesses.
Yeah, and the big point that I think you're stressing that I hope people understand is that labor cost and be able to find the talent to be able to execute and then have the workflow on your own floor with the equipment that's going to be needed to deliver that premium service. And do you gate it? How do you deliver it? You got to have that strategy. Is it a connected solution? How are you tracking it? Working with development solutions. You brought up something on the heart rate side that, you know, that's been a lot of my work history, and that was my frustration a lot of times dealing with HLVP clubs that just thought if they brought in a big screen and brought in devices, that it would just equal,
it's going to start
20
raining money. Right.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You got to
No.
run the play.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly right. And the clubs that listened and supported it top down were unique, but they had a unique group. They had a unique labor that could execute it. They had a community that really engaged in it and understood what the member wanted. So, having a results, I know that Workout Anytime has a results pyramid. Is that something that really, I think,
It's just it's a
integrate
model. It's a
technology?
model for it's a model. So we all know this in every brand, right? At the end of the day, you can do a lot of things to shave off a couple points as it relates to attrition, right? But we all know why people quit. Okay. If they're moving, that's a reason they quit. There's nothing we can do about that. We also know a lot of people who say they're moving, they're not. They just don't want to talk to you, right? We all know that the attrition battle is won or lost on the front end. If they're working out 3 times a week for the first 2 months, I don't care what they're doing, you're probably good to go for a while, right? But at the end, what trumps all of it is results, right? So most people, 5% of your members at best in most clubs know what the heck they're doing. I mean, this is that rare animal who walks in and he or she's a trainer, they're an athlete, and they really just don't need a lot of assistance or motivation, right? They got it. They just need access. That's wonderful. We're happy for those members. Keep the club clean, friendly, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. You got maybe 10% that are going to buy personal training. And of course, they're going to get a really high level experience then, right? A custom program to do that. That means 85% of your members are wandering around going, scanning QR codes. Is that a program? Is your app delivering that? Ours isn't. We have Trainerize, right? Trainerize is a wonderful program, but it's designed for a trainer to work with you.
Yep.
So something your listeners should look at. If you look at Ramp by Gym Doctor, Ramp is an AI generated program that's done on an iPad. You take a typical intake that a trainer would do. Ask any activity questions, height, weight, age, goals, do body comp testing. It walks you through it. You have to insert the body comp metrics in there, body fat percentage, lean mass, fat mass, right? Then they take all the equipment in your gym and they build it into the AI. The AI has to see that, right?
Yep.
Once you've entered all this in, you go out on the floor, you're going to actually put the resting heart rate in. You need to detect that. You've got your body comp. Then you're going to do a strength test on 10 pieces of equipment, depending on the program you select. An advanced program is probably going to be more free weight. At any rate, it walks you through entering this in the iPad, right? Once you put that in there, Marcelo, you hit enter. There is a 2-month program. I'm talking about every set, not just do this exercise, use this weight for this many reps, and it tells that member exactly what to do. Their nutrition program, nutrition's math. Okay.
Yep.
It's math, pure and simple. How many calories, right? What are the macros based upon that individual, right? This thing kicks out a 2-month digital plan. If they forget part of it, they tap on it. It shows them the exercise, right? Long story short, that's a very powerful tool, right? So we're seeing clubs that are gonna get the 300 or 400 members paying in our model an additional $30 a month, and
That's awesome.
the labor associated with this, Marcelo, you're talking about a half hour every 2 months to retest. So compare that to PT for a moment. That is leverage. That means that, say you have 300 members on it, which is not unrealistic at all over time. It may take you 6 months to get there, but you got 300 members on it paying 30. There's $9,000. Over $6,000 of that is falling to the bottom line. If you lose anybody in your staff can be taught to do this, right? So that's an example of leveraging AI to pull some labor. Doesn't mean that you can actually pay people well. You just have to restructure how you do it, right? If you know this in the world, anytime you're one-on-one with someone, it's a lot of money. And you got to pay a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time, and you've got to be recruiting. And in our model, I can tell you, to get a trainer up to speed, man, you're going to put 100 hours into that guy, or he's not going to get up to speed. In most cases, he's going to fail. With Ramp, I can get a junior trainer. He could deal with 400 people.
Yeah.
So think about that as it relates to the model. And those are the type of things, if you're not looking at that, we're putting eGym in, piloting it 2 clubs, very expensive AI equipment. But EOS is way ahead of us on that. If you look at what they're doing, the reality is that the AI equipment and the kiosk, oh my word, it absolutely delivers a stellar experience. And it is so easy, it's incredible, because the system guides the staff member and the member through the process. And then they're guided all the time. It all rolls up into the app, but they're getting feedback on the machine. If you're not looking at these solutions, wow, that's where same thing's going to happen with group. AI is going to be able to generate group programming using kind of exercise clips on a screen. We're actively looking at that with several providers, because we need, if we want to do group, we need to make it much, much simpler in our model. We can't hire boutique level instructors. That dog won't hunt. Those people aren't in the communities we're in. We're in little towns like Sylacauga, Alabama. You don't have that sophisticated labor pool. And by the same token, the member base, they just want a class, right? This is mostly about community for them, right? It's not about, I need the best. And we're not in downtown Philly. And we're never going to be there.
It's interesting because you really, it makes sense, right? The piece of equipment truly is innovative, right? But you're bringing up a good point. What's innovative versus a gimmick? Because that's really, you have to be able to smell that out and be able to say, hey, I know that this is effective in my business model. And that means an active owner that is, to your point, eyes on the numbers, but also is making a financial decision, not an accounting decision.
You are, Marcelo, that's exactly what happens. Like this Ramp thing I just presented at our conference, because the pilot's over and we know it works. I've got 30 owners. I've done 4 calls thus far because our conference ended Saturday. So in each of those calls, I go, here's what works and here's what doesn't work. And I'm going to get real direct with you and ask you some real direct questions. So for example, it failed in 2 of our clubs. This happens a lot, Marcelo. Things fail.
Yeah.
Why did
Yeah.
it fail? In a nutshell, I went to those clubs personally to train people. I knew within 15 minutes that trainers were completely threatened, thought it would take their job. And you can't, I don't, I ask them questions. Why do you feel that way, et cetera, right? So what I say to owners now is, look, your staff needs to buy into this. So if you are not, one of 2 things needs to happen. You get them to buy in, I can help. Or if you don't, you have to ask them to leave. It's like
Yeah.
the analogy I use to the owner is, you run a McDonald's, stay with me here, right? And so you find out that one of your workers, Gen Z typically, right? They're very passionate about food quality, seed oils, all that stuff, right? That ain't going to work. Do you understand? That's just not going to work. Like, French fries are bad for your health. Hey, listen, bro, we sell French fries.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, if we can't get alignment on the team, and that's part of what I train owners to do, what is your culture? Communicate that. What is important to you?
Yeah.
A new employee should never be hired without alignment on that, which means you've got to describe it to them. You've got to get to know them before you hire them to the extent that it's possible. And I always have a goal with everyone new on our team. I say, my goal with you is that if it's 3 to 6 months in and someone says, how is the job? I want you to say one of 2 things. It's exactly what I was told it would be, or it's better. What I don't want to hear is, wow, I feel really misled. Like, they said this, or they just didn't tell me. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
As you can tell, transparency with me, Marcelo, really big deal.
It's
Really big
all.
deal.
I remember hiring trainers in Equinox when I worked there, and the business model that you're describing, I'm having flashbacks in that this model with Ramp, because I have used the Ramp system as well, is it reminds me of having an onboarding standardized system that I know as an operator. One, there's going to be a level of service delivered. There's going to be that burger, that fry delivered,
100%.
and that's going to create a utilization in my facility. But as a trainer too, I could subsidize some of the floor rate hours with that little bit of profit, and I can make sure that that young trainer could actually learn what periodization is, what progressive
Yes.
overloading.
And they don't
You
know
know,
that. And they don't
yeah,
know that. Come on. They don't get that from a
no,
base certification. That's nothing
no,
against the certifying bodies. They got
no,
to take them one step at a time. That base certification with no experience
yeah,
and no mentorship, they don't know what the
yep.
heck they're doing yet.
And as much as we're seeing the new technology being launched, I think that we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I know there's tension between free weights machines and functional training equipment, and now digital tech stacks that can measure everything. I mean, I'm an early adopter, but I also acknowledge that if it's going to cost me more than really the facility's worth, I can't bring that in.
Oh yeah,
If
you've got to know who you are, Marcelo. You're
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right. And to me, did a lot of consulting, and I'm essentially, a franchise model at my level, and all the people, our entire team, right, who works for the franchise. At the end of the day, we're consultants, right? Like,
yeah,
you're a franchisee, it's your business. Like, I have this discussion all day long. Ask me a question, like, what would you do? I do this. I don't want to do that. Okay. Okay. I always say the same thing. I'm not here to, there's a few cases where I can and will say you're not doing that, right? I can control their pricing, that, right? And I'm really looking to prevent them from underpricing, which a lot of people try to do. We're not selling memberships, so let's lower the price. Oh, no, 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 my friend. We're not going down that road. So
yeah.
you can
It's a
just,
race
like,
to the bottom.
that we're not doing that. We cannot. That's like competing, trying for us to outprice, Planet. That's crazy. But
Yeah,
I get it, right? You're getting your butt kicked in. and your staff will tell you that all the time. And yet we know in our brand, if you just hold firm on price, you can do fine. There's plenty of people that prefer our experience. Nothing wrong with Planet. Planet's like Walmart, right? It's like Costco, right? There's nothing wrong with Costco. I go to Costco. Do I like the experience? I hate it. I can't wait till I get out, right? Okay, that it's not, why do I do it? Because it's price. That's why I go there. Then I shop at our local Acme and I pay more, and I know that, but on an ongoing basis, I'm not willing to do that. In our model, break even, and I think this is important to understand about service. If your break even is, say, 6,000 members, which lots of crunches and planets have, right?
Oof.
Ours is more like at 2,000 a month, right? What does that feel like, Marcelo, when you walk through the door? It
Yeah.
feels a lot more personal in our gyms.
Yeah.
When we brought MXM in, and I don't know, I think we had it in all the clubs for a while. We don't now. I remember Blair just going, I can't believe your scores, how high they are. Now, that's not to say we don't have our bad apples. We do. And we don't always fulfill our mission the way I'd like to see us doing that. But on the whole, and a big part of that is we're in small towns. We tend to have local ownership, and we actually can know your name. You cannot know people's names when there's, 1,000
Yeah.
check-ins a day, right?
Yeah.
You just can't. That doesn't mean they don't do a good job. Crunch is amazing. Planet is amazing. But if we try to go head to head, it's like getting in the ring with Mike Tyson and me trying to box. I need to not do that. I need to fight my way, right? And
Yeah.
so when we do that, like we have a better recovery experience than Crunch in our new club. We do. It's a fact. It's a stone cold fact, and better than Planet, right? And it feels different. The member experience is different just based on volume. It's like, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm starting to sweat in the parking lot. I can't even find a spot. It's like, oh shit. And I walk in and I don't know where to find anything. We just have a more personal feel. We have a Southern heritage. And I honestly think that's a big part of it. I'm a Northeast guy, but our brand, our heritage is Southeast. And,
I agree.
Southern hospitality, honestly, it's alive and well. I
Yeah.
was just
No,
at
it
our
is.
conference. They're just a lovely, warm group of people that are very, very welcoming. So that's kind of natural behavior for a lot of our owners, and that translates through to the culture and the experience that we can deliver. So we have to know who we are and double down on what we're good at, and not get afraid, because as you know, Marcel, it's like fast food, right? You drive up to a corner, there can be 4 fast food restaurants on the corners, right? They can all be there for 10 years. What does that tell you? They're all making money.
Yeah.
So, it's like, let's not panic. Wait a minute. What do you need? All we need to worry about, Mr. Owner, is what you need. Don't worry about what they're doing.
Yeah.
You want to be aware, you want to go shop them, you want to do all that, right? But at the end of the day, it's, you're going to, our new CEO, Jerry, who is our biggest franchisee now, is running the company, and he's amazing. And one of the things he really taught the network is plan from day one on Crunch or Planet being in your face. Just plan on it. It may not
Yeah.
happen right away, but don't think that you're going to get away with not having a competitor forever. That is,
It
that
is a fact of
that
life. It used to be only Chicago, New York, LA, or a really densely populated. Now you have, because of the pandemic, a lot of these planet expansions, and they're in small towns like you're describing. So this
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, and
gives
they're
you
gonna keep they're gonna keep coming. Look at their
yeah,
growth plan. All you gotta do is listen to their earnings call.
yeah,
They're building smaller boxes. How fierce are they? They are a fearsome competitor.
yeah, yeah. Those
We
crunch,
can't go head to head. We've got to be able to survive and thrive when one of those guys opens. If a new one opens near you, are they going to take members? 100% all
yeah.
day long, right?
Well, but to your point, you have a population that you're servicing. How much do you need to get to your number? And then what does that revenue mix look like in a healthy club today?
No,
You know,
and part of that is just what we're trying to do strategically. We have to continue to drag our price up. Average revenue, lifetime value. Average revenue per head. I mean, just stay on that. Everything, ramp, everything we do has to focus into that. We have to get the owners very, very clear on those, the right metrics, how to measure them. And then, hey, bud, you got to know the back end of your business. What does your EBITDA look like? I talk to new owners all the time and I go, can you foresee a day when you'd sell this? Yes. Well, you really need to understand the financial underpinning, what values this and what doesn't, right?
yeah,
Because there's all sorts of stuff in that, right? Like Marcel, like all
yeah,
your big chains, for example, they're very good at asset management. And that's because, let's take the top of the heap, a Lifetime Fitness. How much equipment and how much is that equipment worth? Holy moly, they
yeah.
spend a lot of money.
Oh my
If you
God,
are
yeah,
not managing those assets, that means what? All the preventive maintenance. It has on time. Is it measured? Uptime, downtime, usage, equipment mix, right? And then what are you doing? You are replacing equipment on a schedule, and there's a
yep,
methodical process. Everything's budgeted for. Brands like ourselves, when what we're doing is transitioning from a legacy time where owners really didn't have that deep thought process, Marcelo, when they started, to where we are now saying you should be planning for when you're going to sell, even if it's 15 years from now, today, right? And that means what? You're going to have to put money back into this puppy. And it's very predictable. So let's look at all that, because we don't tend to have as many large, sophisticated franchise groups, right? Now we have two private equity firms backing us who are they're bringing the professionalism of the entire organization up. It's just amazing. It's a pleasure to be a part of it. And to see that's going all the way down to the franchisee level, though, because they are prepared to back franchisees. Okay. You've got to be successful. You've
yep,
got to have your financial house in order. But that's removed a big bottleneck to some of our best owners, saying, look, you guys have to start thinking on a much larger scale. Instead of telling me about the next 3 clubs you're going to buy, let's start talking about 30, 20 over the
yeah,
next 5 years, right? And you've got to raise your thinking, and they are, right? But we have to deal with the legacy owners who we care about deeply, right? Some of those guys, they kind of bought a job for themselves. Does that make sense? And
oh,
that's
100%.
okay. Nothing wrong with that, right? But the market's changing, right?
Yep,
It's just changing very, very rapidly. So trying to get work with them pull the bottom up as much as we possibly can is a big, big deal, and something we're very, very focused on. And then on the front end, we're bringing in more sophisticated owner groups now. And then we're really working with our largest and most successful franchise groups, because that can drive a ton of our growth, as well as we have an acquisition strategy for the first time where we're able to buy other. And I think one of the things if you've got independent club owners listening to this, one of the things that they need to understand strategically, Marcelo, is this is just going to keep happening,
yeah.
right? Like there's massive consolidation. You and I know, like, just look, Gold's
Merger
Gym.
Master.
Gold's Gym just got snapped up. So Gold's Gym SoCal, how big of a
Yeah,
deal is that? Oh my gosh.
the history,
I'm like,
the
that's
history.
iconic, right? Like,
Yeah,
so here's the thing. I don't think that's going to stop. And
no,
so if you're an individual club owner, you better buckle up. You need to get more sophisticated. You need to have
yeah,
a plan. You can survive and thrive. What you can't do
yeah,
is sit on your hands, and play golf all day. Like
no.
that's not going to work.
I, I think owners today, like my comments on accounting and finance decisions, I think what ended up happening was everyone looked at it from a Lean Six Sigma approach. Let me cut these expenses. Let me cut these expenses, and we're penny wise, pound foolish. and didn't look at the challenges and didn't talk about maintenance, capital expenses that you need to do every year, because you're going to get a competitor, to your point. And if you understand that, then you understand how to maximize the size of space and then how to deal with the workforce development. Those are the challenges, you
They are,
know?
and they're big, and you're right, they're big challenge. Gen Z, we live and die with them. That's our biggest member group. It's our biggest
Yeah.
staff group, right? You, you,
Yeah.
I know myself. I'm 66. I, uh, I, I have a much easier time relating to owners than I do to staff. It's not that I can't do it. I can, but I literally need to completely modify my communication channels. My style has to change if I want to connect with those people. Because if I don't connect with them, they're not listening.
Yeah.
And if they're not listening, I'm wasting all my time, right? And that starts with understanding. And actually, I understand. I think they're a great group. My experience with them is that they have a social moral consciousness. That
Yeah.
is very important to them. So I think
Yep.
owners need to understand, well, understand you're being judged.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fair. That's fair. My daughter's Gen Z and in the market, right? And I always tell her, honey, if you don't have equity and it's not family, don't get confused. You work hard because you should, but you are always looking for another job. Always,
Yeah.
literally,
The new reality.
that resume is up to date.
Think-
That LinkedIn, because you know what? You don't know what's going to happen, right?
Well,
And the
gone are
reality
the
is
days of
employers on the
owners.
whole are not taking care of Gen Z.
Yeah.
They're not.
Owners, a real good owner is hard to find. I wish to say it was easy to find a great owner.
It's not.
Every business, especially today now in this environment where you're trying to get funding or you're trying to figure out this business solution, it's sadly become too Machiavelli-like. And that's one thing I give credence to the Gen Z. They want to be successful, but they
Yes.
don't want to, they have ethics. And
Yes. Right.
that's really it.
You know, and if you think about, my daughter's my best teacher of Gen Z. So I've seen her go through employers that have treated her terribly. She's got a good one now who's supporting her. That's so nice to see. Businesses have to make money, and that's part of my discussion with my daughter. And
Yeah,
she's learned, like, honey, I said, honey,
don't take it personal. It's business.
what? And you've got to. But we have to help Gen Z understand that, right? And what happens with them? They're smart. Once they
Yeah,
understand it, they get it. Like I said, honey, she works for a franchise. She works for a Goddard school. So you and I can understand that business model without seeing the P&L.
yeah,
They got real estate, they got payroll, they got this. How many people do you
yeah,
got? Right. And that's been a real education for my daughter. And I said, so, for you to move up in that organization, you're going to have to move into admin. But I don't
yeah.
want to do that. Okay.
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 What's the next experience look like? Because
Right,
this is not.
then we need to start thinking about, where do you want to go next? That's
Yeah.
not them being mean to you. The
No.
business, this job, I have these discussions with younger people on our network all the time. And I have it with owners. This is a huge problem when you're a single site owner. Is Gen Z, rightly so, are the best people. They're worried about where they're going to be in 5 years, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just, okay, I need to turn my lights on. That's the language I use today. But the best people are like, what I really want to understand is how I can move up. I'm not asking to be given it.
Career path.
Help me see this. And so we
Yeah.
see it on our network, what happens, Marcelo, and it's so predictable. You got a young guy or gal, both, doesn't matter what sex, and they're your club manager and they're crushing it. Look, they're tapped out at 60. Forget it. In our model, like, pretty much tapped out. You cannot pay more. There's no more to give. So are you giving insurance? Okay. Female, she gets married, she gets pregnant. Male, he gets married, wife is pregnant. We all know what just happened. Their
Yep.
entire world just changed.
Oh, yeah.
And what are they going to do? They almost have to roll,
Yep.
right? It's like, I can't make these numbers work in my household. Like, I can't. So I think you have to be cognizant of that. And it comes back to why in a franchise model,
You need
Marcelo,
to
you
sit.
got it. You can't be thinking onesie twosies. You don't
Yeah.
need to think 100, but,
No,
but, but, but,
three to
but
five.
yeah, maybe 10. All of a sudden, if you have 10, 5, 10, what can you say to someone? Hey, Marcelo,
Ex-
listen, you're starting on the front desk, bud. But you know what? A lot of people started at the front desk. There's people in my organization. See that guy over there? He's making 6 figures and he started sitting right where you are. Now, I'm not going to give it to you, but I'm going to talk to you about how you can do that. I'm going to coach you, right? First thing you got to show me is let's get this job nailed down. Here's what I want to see you. I want you to show me, right? These are the skill sets. We're both responsible for getting you there. These are the kind of KPIs I want you to be thinking about. Learn that, demonstrate that. And you know what? You want to move up? We can start talking about moving up, right? And by the way, you can have a real job here. You don't have to live with your parents for the rest of your life, right? Those discussions are really, really, really critical. Our best owners, Chris Grove, franchisee of the
Yeah.
year. He's amazing, right? The guy pours so much in and he demands a lot though. It's both, but I love having Chris Grove in trainings when I'm doing an education thing and a group of owners in the room. And I'll always say this, I'll go, so if you're teaching me how to do a telephone inquiry, we've all done that, right? We know it's important. How many times do you need to practice that with an individual, right? The room's silent and I go, someone tell me. If Chris is in the room, I'll go, Chris. And he'll go, you need to do it
Every
until they
day.
get it. And it
Yeah.
ain't going to happen in 3 tries, bro.
No.
Like it's good. You want those interpersonal skills, which are, that is the difference between success and failure. Can
Yeah.
you get comfortable and effective asking for referrals?
And that's the
That
biggest
is not
challenge with
natural
Gen Z.
behavior. It's not natural. Can you
Yeah.
get people on the phone into the club? None of that is natural. It is
Yeah.
not natural, right? So that is behavior that needs to be taught. If you don't lean into that, you're not gonna. That's why Chris Grove is franchisee of the year. Like that is why he is consistently outperforming every other owner in the network. Um, and obviously it gets more and more challenging as he goes higher and higher to scale, right? Because he's got to keep inserting that second and maybe third layer of management, right? And those people have to be really good. So the people side of this business is you can't ever take your eye off that ball. That's the game.
So obviously, having your own systems internally, you're relying on education and you're relying on these certifying bodies. What does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you feel like, because listen, I've worked for an organization. That's how, we've interacted in that space, also on the wearable device space. But the biggest challenge is one, recruitment, but also getting people competent because we've discussed this over and over again. You got certified, but you're not competent. You
It's
know,
such a great point. And we're not where we need to be. Can't blame Marcelo with that. And I think you have to be doing a couple things. One, let's just start with recruitment. So there's a company we worked with. If people haven't checked them out, I would check them out. They're called Fiber, Fibr. It's actually Neil Spruce's son. So if you know
yeah,
Neil, legend,
standard
right?
guy.
Industry legend. And you go, what does that have to do with recruitment? Neil knows the whole business from stem to stern. So here's what's interesting though. They're not, I wouldn't call them cheap, but when owners are not, most of our owners are not willing to really put the time and energy they should be into recruiting. And I always say the same thing. Look, I get that, but you're dying here because you're not doing it. So pay for it. Fiber's industry specific, and they've really proven to us that they get to know the owner and the requirements, and they're great at vetting that. So they're delivering qualified candidates to you. Right? So it starts with that. It starts with a mindset that what I teach owners, try to teach them is it's part of your schedule. You always have job ads up. Always. You always refresh them. You have to respond to anybody who looks good, but I have everyone I need. I don't care. Respond.
Yeah,
That could take a month and a half to play that person out. What if they're amazing and you get to the end, which is phone screen? Do you know how to do that? Did you check their references, resume, blah, blah, blah. Get them in the club, multiple serial interviews, right? You don't just hire slow, hire fast, right? So you go through that whole process with the individual. And then at the end, if you can't hire, you say, listen, Marcelo, I'm really sorry that I know this isn't going to, you're probably going to jump to another job, but I want you to know we really liked you. And things change. And I am going to absolutely keep you on file. Can you do that? So it starts with that recruiting mindset. And then to your point, when you're onboarding, we have onboarding plans. We have two things that we use, particularly with managers. One is called a competency checklist. And it's literally, Marcelo, you need to know how to do every one of these things. Now, a lot of little things. It's like, do you know how to turn the alarm on and off? You need to know that. And I was a Marine, okay? I know how to scale large groups. And it's called checklist, checklist, checklist. Show me. It's not complicated. Tell the guy, I say, Marcelo, look, you need to get competent on this. That means when you're standing around picking your butt, stop doing that and learn something. No, we have online on-demand learning. I'll teach you. Other people can show you, but it's up to both of us. I need you to have mastered this entire skill test. All the software crap, everything's in there, right? And then for manager, we use another tool called an accountability grid. We don't use this with clubs. For kind of club staff, their world is basically shift. Does that make sense? Meaning a shift has a certain checklist and it's rinse, repeat. You just do the same thing. So it's not super complex. A manager's job is more complex. So for example, weekly, biweekly, monthly, quarterly, the higher up you go, the more you have to extend your planning cycle. And if this doesn't make sense, it's literally telling someone, hey, listen, it's like a new quarterback in the NFL, right? You're a rock star, right? You wouldn't be on the team. But I'm going to say, Marcelo, you got a headset on, right, bud? Let's do this. Let me call the plays for a little while. It's rough out there, right? A lot of stuff going on. Let me help you out. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to let you do it. And what do they do? That's what they do. And then as that rookie develops, gets more competent, what do? You give them more rope.
Yeah, let them run the offense.
When someone starts, to me, you got to go, listen, when you get lost, this accountability, you need to do these things every day. These are weekly, like biweekly, payroll, right? Let the guy know. So both of those tools give him actionable information. Then you have a job description, which is not real helpful. It's a legal instrument. It doesn't tell him what to do. And then you have goals. But if you just pop goals up on a board, every year, the NFL, what is every team's goal? To win the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
Goals don't do shit by themselves. I think that's one of them. Write your goal down. That's like step 1 of 100, right? I want to make money. Again, that's great. We all want to make money. How are you going to do that? So if you want this guy to produce at a level, and you have to train him through the process. A manager has to start to understand, has to think like you, and that means his comp plan needs to align. So, for example, we teach owners that instead of comping, bonusing managers on sales, individual sales, we'll do that with a team, the lower folks. Okay. For you though, Marcelo, as my manager, I need you to focus on the draft. Let's sit down and I'm going to show you everything that makes it go up and everything that makes it go down. And I'm going to pay you bonuses based on increasing that number. So we can't spend units, right? So units are important. How many memberships? But does the type of membership matter? A whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Does attrition matter? A whole lot.
Yeah.
Right? So if we do what I just said, that manager is going to immediately start to align their actions with mine. And that's a good place to be. I think trying to pay them off a P&L, that's a bit too complex. at least in our model, right? Once if they get above the club level, we can start introducing that level of education. But, so, fitness and education, that's my title. So
Yeah.
education's a big, big deal to me. I think you need to have multiple ways to do that, to your point. So your fitness staff, have you budgeted? Do you have a plan to pay for ongoing education? Are you going to do some of that? What if you do with all these certifying bodies have now? They have these access programs that are online where a trainer can go on for maybe $99 a month. All your trainers can go online, right? And they can just learn. And there's just massive, amazing courses they can get their CECs. But are you budgeting for at least one live training event? Like either bring them in or pay for them, right?
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, trainers are going to bolt, to your point, and they're not going to be really effective. So are you training them? I focus my training of trainers on the business aspects, right? How do I talk to people? How do I book them for that complimentary appointment? Because if you're a new trainer, that is the goal. Don't get confused. I want you to book 3 of these a day. What else?
Yep.
That's it. That simple. And then we're going to teach you how to do that appointment. And you're not going to hit every ball that you swing at. And then, but we've got to narrow the focus for that individual, and then we got to lean into showing them how to do it. I got to walk out on the floor and go, watch me. And then I talk you through it, maybe at an online course. They watch you do it live. Then it's like, Marcelo, you are up, right? If we don't translate into action, education is pretty useless, right? It's got to translate into, same thing with our owners. We do this. We get them through some content online, about 20 hours. They don't remember it all, but they remember a lot of it. And the most important thing that happens, Marcelo, with online content is they become aware of what they did not know that they did not know. Does that make sense? So I use
Oh
this
my.
all the time.
Yeah.
What bites you is what you didn't know, right? Then
Yeah.
they come to live training. We can go a little bit faster. We can go a little bit deeper. And we can focus more on people skills to loosely cover it. Because if you don't know how to do it as an owner in our brand, I can't do that for you. You can send your people to me. We'll do a workshop. But if you come in and I do a sales workshop for the front of the house, right? They're going to learn a lot. They're going to leave. They're going to be fired up. They'll sell more, I promise you. If you are not following up, though, what's going to happen? It's
Yeah.
going to go right
It'll
back.
be small blip and then it just
Yeah,
goes
you
back
can
down.
do that. And so that's one of the dilemmas. Owners like, well, can't you do that for me? No, I actually can't run your club. There are 200 of you guys out there, right?
Yeah.
There's how many of me again? One.
Yeah.
Now we have a whole field support team. We work hand in hand, but at the end of the day, you've got to work together. You've got to work together. And so the education component, to your point, particularly with trainers, it's hard. And again, it's really hard if you're a single unit owner because you just don't have that much money to
Yeah.
spend on it. But you have to spend something on it, and you have to lean into it. And you got to give them some path, or you're just going to churn. And if you
That's the biggest one.
churn trainers, I mean, you just can't even have a training business.
Yeah. You
Same
know,
thing with a group. You can't churn instructors. I always say the personal training business, it's very personal.
and everyone now looks at AI as the immediate solution when
It's a
AI
tool.
is not that solution. It is not the deliverable because
No,
it's
AI
personal service.
should make what I try to tell trainers, like with this ramp tool. Guys, it's not replacing you. It's so not replacing you. Don't think that way. It's a tool.
Yep.
I could sit down with a calculator if I asked you like 10 questions, had your body comp, and I can create a diet. Okay, I've been doing this. I've been in this industry for 45 years. Okay. I am not your average bear. That would take me up to 2 hours to do. I can
Yeah.
do that. I'm pounding, I'm putting stuff into a spreadsheet. Why in the wild world of sports would I want to waste that much time when I
Yeah.
can pop that in and go enter? Boom, there's a nutrition program. If you're not leaning into that,
Yeah.
You need to lean into it. Same thing with program design. I know how to design a program. Why do I want to spend all that? Trainers aren't even getting paid for program design. That's one of the industry problems, right? And
Yeah.
how much can you pay a trainer? So let me see, I'm paying you. You did 6 training sessions today. And now what you're telling me is you need another 20 minutes for each workout. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's broken. That's not working. Use the
Yeah.
tool. Use the tool. You're training. The person you're training doesn't care where the program came from. Not one bit. Not one bit.
Well, it just has to be shown. You
No,
got
it
to be
just
able
has
to
to
see the
be,
work.
you just have to take into account their baselines, right? Where are they? Strength, this, that, experience, age, sex, da da da. It's to take into account their baselines, and then you have to build progression out, right? So,
Yep.
and AI, that's like, there's going to be tons of these tools. But the key, like ramp, I keep coming back to ramp. You're interacting with a human a lot. Now, on an ongoing basis, you're working out on your own, right? But that first interaction is key. And what happens is a lot of people go through that first interaction. They bought the ramp program, they bought the ramp membership. They get to that appointment, and the act of you taking me through the entire thing, including 10 exercises, you're like blown away. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I had no idea what this guy even does.
Yeah.
And you know
It.
what? When you're really good, what happens? They actually ask you, do you do?
Yeah.
Like, do you see what I mean? Like, that's just the beginning point, right? But again, what do we do with the 85% in the middle, right? If we want them to be successful. What's the highest percentage of training in our industry? I don't know, 15%. I don't
I
know many
don't.
clubs
That's a
that are
great.
50%.
It depends on where you're viewing that data, but it's anywhere. I mean, like from 5 to 15. The larger facilities definitely have more penetration because of,
Yeah.
they have the money to be able to subsidize a lot of those activities. But to your point, you got, you know, smaller facilities that are max maybe 8 to 10 employees, and you got to be able to shoestring that. So, you know, it has become, so much. I mean, throughout this whole discussion, I mean, there's so much incredible, insightful information that people just really have just,
Well,
have so.
I'm hoping that I hope that everyone enjoys it, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with you,
Yeah.
Marcelo. And I'm happy to come back
Well, thank
anytime
you.
again. And you've got
Yeah.
my contact information, and if anyone has any questions ever or anything like that, I'm a huge believer in spending time with other fitness industry professionals. When I go to a show like HFA, I'm very busy. I'm
Yeah.
like, the vendors love me because I book every bit of my time. And that
Yeah.
includes time with other people like you. Hey, let's plan a time, because I actually want to talk to you a little bit. And I want to learn, what are you working on? What's working for you? What's not working? All those things. And I think as an industry, we need to work together.
Yeah.
We need
I
to
think
do that.
I think in the biggest challenges there on that front is always, it's harder now because operators are inundated. Franchise owners, franchise operators are inundated with vendors coming to them constantly, constantly. And the thing is, on that side of the table, you guys already have done your due diligence and are 90%, 95% already know what they want or what they need. And so you're not, speaking from the guy that's on the other side of the table. You can't push yourself through. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. It's either your job is to build that trust, that value, and if it's going to work, it's going to work. Outside of that, keep keep the reputation, keep the integrity, keep the discussion ongoing, and understand it might be not a no now, but it could be a possibility
No, no,
in the
Marcelo,
future.
I always
Yeah.
take that attitude with vendor partners. I can tell you that I'm a really popular guy with them, and it's not because I'm easy on our vendor partners. It's
No,
because
you're brutally honest.
I'm transparent. And
Yes.
most vendors, I get asked to events that other people don't get asked to. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I always have you thought about, it would be very helpful to me. because I look at it this way. It is, at the end of the day, I want vendors to get better, and I
Yeah.
want them to be, and they have to be profitable, because if they're not profitable, then we're going to have a problem. It's important for me to drive the best deals possible for our franchise when we bring in a new vendor. That's super important part of my job, and I take it seriously. At the same time, they got to make money.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you said, you're talking to someone, a brand new business, and I'm sure you've had this conversation where you're like, wow, I really like what you're doing, but I got to be direct with you. You're brand new. I don't like brand new, because
Yeah.
brand new may not, I'm going to be blunt with you, brand new may not be here at HFA next year. So
That's the
let's do
biggest challenge.
this. We're slow on that process. Everything I deal with, I have 8 pilots, future pilots, already queued out, because pilots go through, typically send something to our corporate office if it's small enough, and we'll have the office try it if it's a recovery modality. Everyone gives their thumbs up after 3 months. Now that gets moved into a club, right? And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? It
Yep.
either produces value and ROI, and if it does, it's like, then it's great. We go back to the vendor and say, okay, now let's by that point, I've already worked out our pricing. I've worked out our rebate. Franchises get a rebate. Who knew? Everyone should know that. That's part of the deal. I get paid. Everyone gets paid. And then we continue to move. That's like, at my level, that's a never-ending process. Never ending.
Yeah.
And I
And
need
to
to
your
be
point,
doing it. And that's a huge advantage, again, of a larger organization compared to mom and pops. Mom and pops are not going to get a pilot for free.
yeah.
Like, they're not. They don't have the market potential for the vendors that I do. A vendor that's looking at us is going, holy moly, you mean I could be in 200 clubs? And I'm very transparent. I'm like, don't think that's easy. Don't think
No.
that's going to happen automatically. Don't think that's going to happen overnight. Because if you think that we're going to make you a mandatory vendor, that there are some, but it is, you got to go through a whole lot. But because as soon as I tell a franchisee they have to buy something, you know what their reaction is, right? I don't want to buy that.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like, you can't
Graceful
do
call.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to. The more my discussions with franchise owners go way better when I give them options, and then they say to me, which one would you buy? And then
Yeah.
that's a very productive discussion. And it's not me telling them. It's me asking, it's actually me asking them questions, right? Because the
Yep.
right decision is based upon their answers to those questions, because their situation is unique, right? Where's your club? How many do you have? Da, 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 da. To me, this is reflex behavior. I just do it every time a franchisee asks me something like that. I'm like, here's what I can tell you. And I tend up mostly on most things, say, here's the good part. And guess what else? Here's the bad part. Because with
Yeah.
most things, it is like, hey, this is a really amazing modality, as an example, but it's not cheap. This red light bet, it's $25K. Yep, it's a lot of money. So if you don't have a lot of money, then maybe we talk about a massage chair or two,
Yeah.
right? Let's talk about a different thing. Anyway, Marcelo, this has been really great. I do have to
Yeah.
get ready for another meeting, though, at this point.
Let's do this. And I'll include the links that you want to share, so everyone who wants to get in contact with you, I'll include it in the show notes. Again, thank you for the opportunity. This was
That's right.
phenomenal.
Thanks, Marcelo. I really appreciate it.